Hello friends, this is Gaurav from Go for eLearning. In this video, I am going to discuss about another way to control the flow of programs is with something called a switch statement. So what is a switch statement? A switch statement executes one statement from multiple conditions. It is like if else if later statement that we discussed in my previous video. So this is the syntax of switch statement. In this syntax, let's start with the word switch, then followed by a pair of round brackets. The variable we want to check goes between the round brackets of switch. Then we have a pair of curly brackets. After that, the other parts of the switch statement all go between these two curly brackets. For every value that you want to check, we need the keyword case. After this keyword, then we have the value we want to check. So after case and value, it comes a colon. Then we put what we want to happen if the value matches. This is our code that we want to execute. Then after this code, the keyword break is needed to break out of each case of switch statement. The break statement causes execution to exit the switch statement. If there is no break, execution flows through into the next case of the switch statement. Please remember, if there is no break, execution flows through into the next case of the switch statement. Then at the end, there is the default keyword that is optional. It can be executed when none of the above mentioned cases is true. This is all about the syntax of switch statement. Now we can see the flow chart that is showing switch case code flow. If case 1 value matches, then statement 1 will be executed and break statement causes execution to exit the switch statement. Suppose if case 1 value not matches, then it will check case 2 and so on. If none of the case values matches, then default case will be executed. And now we have following rules that we need to apply to a switch statement. First rule is the variable used in a switch statement can only be integer or convertible integer, that is byte, short, character or strings and enum types. So this is the first rule. Next rule is you can have any number of case statements within a switch statement. Each case is followed by the value to be compared to and a colon. Another rule is the value of a case must be the same data type as the variable in the switch and it must be a constant or a literal. And another rule is when the variable being switched on is equal to a case, the statement following that case will execute until a break statement is reached. Another rule is when a break statement is reached, the switch terminates and the flow of control jumps to the next line following the switch statement. Another rule is not every case needs to contain a break. If no break appears, the flow of control will fall through to subsequent cases until a break is reached. And the last rule is a switch statement can have an optional default case which must appear at the end of the switch. The default case can be used for performing a task when none of the cases is true. No break is needed in the default case. So after rules, now we'll discuss about the Java example which shows how to use switch case statements in Java program. So whenever you have to make multiple condition checking, then you can use a switch statement. You can use switch statements in place of if else statements also, but generally we use a switch statements when you have a multiple expressions to check. So let's take an example. For example, I have a data type called store a grade, which is an character type and whose value is C. So let's consider this is the grade of some student. So in Java, let's first see how we can write switch statement. It is a simple that we already discussed. You just need to write a keyword called switch, and then comes the round brackets which evaluates the expression, and then in curly braces write some conditions. So this expression can be a byte or can be a short value or integer, character, string or enum type, right? So in this program, our value is character type. So we can write or evaluate this grade value, and on the basis of this grade value, we can define some cases inside our switch condition. For example, case A, and then comes this colon, and then you can execute your code. So we want to print, for example, system.out print line, and in here we will print excellent. This is on the basis of grade. So if student grade is A, we will print the message excellent, and after this message we just want to break out of this switch statement, so we just write break and semicolon after this. So in this way you can define multiple conditions inside your switch statement, and you can define some other conditions. For example, if grade is B or C, then I will say well done, or if it is D, then I will say you passed, and if it is F, then I will say better try next time. So based on the grade, we are evaluating the grade inside the switch statement, and if this condition or this condition where grade is A or B or C, D or F, all these conditions are not met, then we will stuck, and then we will define a default condition which will catch all the other options other than the defined conditions, and this is done by the keyword called default. Okay, and this default keyword we can define that. For example, we can write invalid grade. So this is the program. Now we will compile the program and run it. So after running it, it prints well done, your grade is C. Why this prints? Because we have defined grade whose value is C, and this variable we are evaluating with our switch statement, and then your program or switch statement evaluates whether the case. So case becomes if this grade is C, then it will execute this code whatever you write after this colon and before this break keyword. All the code whatever you write inside this will be executed. Okay, and after this break is called and flow will come out from the switch statement, and it execute the code after the switch statement, that is the string your grade is and grade value. Here in your case it is C, so it prints your grade is C, and the complete output it will display is well done, your grade is C. So this is all about the details of switch selection type control statement. In my next video, I am going to talk about other type of control statements that are useful to have a strong understanding in Java programming language. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay up to date. Thank you and happy learning.